Hello and welcome to the Spandex and Wine podcast. I'm your host, Robin Hackney, and I'm so happy that you're here. This podcast is a place for conversations about balancing a healthy lifestyle and being happy. More specifically, happy hour. Together, we'll explore all things wellness and wine. I hope you learn a little, laugh a lot, and along the way, know you're not alone on this balanced wellness journey. Ready to jump in? Pour something in your glass that makes you happy because it's time for Spandex and Wine. Hello and welcome to the Spandex and Wine podcast. I'm your host, Robin Hackney. Today I'm thrilled to share with you someone that has been so influential in my life. She's helped me in many ways, and I'm grateful I was able to spend time with her in conversation, and even more grateful I get to share it with you. Alysa Rushton, also known as the Divine Superpowers Activator, is a near-death survivor and energy intuitive who's thought of as one of the world's most cutting-edge thought leaders on conscious life creation and ascension. She is also the founder of the internationally accredited Divine Light Energy Healers Academy, where she teaches the healing tools she has learned on the other side to coaches, healers, and entrepreneurs. Alysa has inspired thousands of light leaders, students, clients, and listeners from all over the globe to step into their true identity as a divine being of light and activate their superpowers. When she's not teaching or speaking internationally, you can usually find her swimming with the sea turtles near her home on the big island of Hawaii or hiking in the mountains of Arizona, her home away from home. Without further ado, I give you Alysa Rushton. Well, hello and welcome to the Spandex and Wine podcast, Alysa. I am super excited to have you here. It's so wonderful to see you.
Oh my gosh, it's wonderful to see you. How are you?
I am doing well. Okay, I just have to tell you, you don't age. You're going backwards. I need to know all your secrets.
That's what we're doing, right? We're working it backwards. We're going back.
That's right. That's right. So for the listeners, a little bit of history. We were neighbors for how many years?
Gosh, I don't know, at least 10, I think.
I would say at least 10. Yes.
Yeah, like 15 years. Because you guys lived there before we moved in.
Right. Yes, we did. We were there in that house for 23 years. And so a large part of that, you were our neighbors. And then you decided you were just going to move to Hawaii. And by God, you just got up and left.
We sure did.
You did. Yes. But when you were in Kansas, and you were my neighbor, you were a holistic nutritionist. And then you had some issues of your own that, led you to that journey. Would you mind just telling us that story? And then we'll go from there because I want to hear about everything you're doing now too.
Yeah. So before I was a holistic nutritionist, I worked for corporate America and I loved my job. It was amazing. I was a corporate sales trainer. And then I got promoted into what I call the gray cubicle of death. Your listeners might be listening right now from their gray cubicles of death.
Yep.
And it's that soul-sucking, soul-crushing job. And how I dealt with that is I personally, you know this about me, I was a smoker. I was a 2-pack-a-day smoker. And I dealt with all the stress with just more smoking, more wine. I know we like wine here, more wine. Yep. More wine. I never considered myself an alcoholic. I just needed to drink every day to not function, but to deal with the stress.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that coupled with some traumas in my past history, it kind of all reached a crescendo at some point, and I got really sick. I got mono. And then once I got mono, I just never kind of recovered. And my body had all this joint pain. And then I went on this search for what was causing all the pain and inflammation. And that search led me into Western medicine. And they were like, well, we've got a pill for that. And I was like, great. Let's give me some pills for that. And I remember feeling really happy and excited about getting pills for that.
Yeah.
I have an addictive nature, right? You can't be a 2-pack-a-day smoker and not have an addictive nature. So I just kept taking pills for that. And I remember really liking that. And so it was more pills and more doctor's appointments. And pretty soon I was on a lot of different medication and we were kind of chasing symptoms and we weren't sure what symptoms were causing what. I was
Hmm.
diagnosed with MS, rheumatoid arthritis, chronic fatigue, fibromyalgia,
Gosh.
celiac, all of these things, right? One on
Yeah.
top of the other. And that's why, by the way, that's why I became a holistic nutrition coach because I had a whole list of issues that I needed to deal with. So yeah, so ultimately I ended up getting a diagnosis of Lyme disease. And
Hmm.
that particular doctor was like, I can fix you. We just need to kill everything that's inside of you.
Yeah.
And so they put me on this really caustic, it's a chemotherapy type of drug, only not cancer chemotherapy, it's antibiotic chemotherapy. And it basically does kill off everything that's inside
Hmm.
of you and also can kill your body off because you're just attacking it.
Yeah.
And so eventually I was on so much medication that I had what we call a Western medication overdose. And you know the rest of the story, I died on the potty. By the way, a
Oh
great
my
place to, if you're
gosh.
going to do it, a great place to go is on the potty.
Oh my gosh.
Yes. And then what was cool is that was sort of my hard reboot. You know,
Yeah.
after my near death experience, when I woke up in the hospital,
Hmm.
I realized, oh, my life is actually broken and I need to fix it. And you were actually a big part of helping me on that journey and starting off on the fixing.
Oh, that's nice of you. When I think back, I'm like, oh, if I were the person then that I am now, oh, I would have been able to help so much more. But we do what we can in the moment, right?
That's right. That's right.
Yeah.
You were
Yeah.
actually amazing though. You guys who listen to Robin know she's amazing. You would come over and you would just help me stretch because I was 240 pounds at the time
Yeah.
using a walker to get around and you would come over and just help me stretch and help me move my body a little bit and you were that motivator to show me, okay, this is possible. You can really do this. And you were constantly motivating me and telling me, you can do this. You can win. You can fight this and win. So yeah.
Oh, that's nice. I'm so glad we were neighbors. Oh, goodness. And you've done so much for me, but we'll get into that too. I think you said that you were on 36 different medications. Is that correct?
28 different medications.
28. Okay.
Which is
Okay.
still a lot. I mean, either way you go,
Yeah.
26, 36, it's a lot.
Yes. It's too many. Yes. Oh,
Yes.
gosh. And so then, how did you climb out of that?
Yeah, well, I think for me, just knowing that what I was doing was killing me,
Hmm.
because I died from Western medication. So I was like, okay, what I'm doing is not working. What do I need to do instead? And so what was really cool is, excuse me, on the other side, I got a full reboot. I got a full download. I got a full understanding. Maybe full is the wrong word to say. I got a broader understanding of what it means to be a human being. I got a broader understanding of healing tools that we can use. And I literally got to see the fabric of our reality and how it's constructed. And so I came back with sort of a different upgraded system, but my physical body was wrecked. So I needed to mesh the two together. And I
Hmm.
remember that first day out of the hospital, I went back into the hospital to keep infusing with the IV chemotherapy and doing all that I was doing. And I remember sitting there, and this man's voice came into my head, and it just repeated the same sentence again and again, and I couldn't shut it off. And the sentence was, I'm getting better and better every day in every way. And it was a man's voice that I had never heard before. And it wasn't until some years later, I think it was about 5 years later, I was listening to something on the internet and it was a man named Emile Couillet. And I knew instantly, I'm like, that's the guy's voice. Oh
Oh,
my, who is this
wow.
Emile Couillet? And that was his phrase, even, I'm getting better and better every day in every way.
And you had never heard that before. It just, oh
Never.
my gosh, that's wild.
And so it kept playing and playing and playing. And so I knew one of the first things is I had to change my mindset. I had to change who I was at my identity core.
Mm-hmm.
And it really did. I mean, you saw a lot of the progress. It took me a while to even do the basics. Like at first, I would just lay in bed and meditate and visualize myself being able to walk again because I really couldn't walk all that well. I was not, I needed the walker to get around,
Yeah.
and I was in so much pain. And you got to remember, I'm a tiny little person,
Yeah.
little tiny little bones, and I was 240 pounds.
Yeah. Oh my gosh.
So I
And
just
young. You were very young too.
was 30.
Yeah.
30 years old.
Yeah.
So, and now I can't believe I'm going to be 50 this year.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, you
Very
do not look 50 at all.
Thank you. It's funny what happens when you change the inside of yourself, your physicality actually changes. I mean, I have this happen, if I may take an aside, now I have a healing academy where I teach the healing tools that I learned on the other side to coaches and teachers and leaders and all the things. It's very common for people to drop weight. We had one woman come on last week and she's like, I swear to you, I have not had a facelift. I promise I have not done Botox, but literally her whole countenance, she's lost 23 pounds. She's just different. And it's interesting what happens to us physically when we do things like boost our nutrition and change our thoughts, but also change our energy that we're being in.
Yeah.
It really makes huge differences that I don't think people yet quite understand.
Right. Right. And I mean, you can just feel it and you have that choice. You get to decide to do that and make those changes. Yeah.
And
But a lot
only
of people don't get there. So congratulations to you.
Thank you. Yeah. And I love what you said, Robin. You have that choice and only you have the choice. I mean, that's the thing that I think we're being invited to these last years, right? If you look at what happened in 2020, and then if you look at what's happening now in 2024 and 2025, I always think of these years as like the big years. For example, if you didn't handle yourself and get yourself dialed in 2020, 21 and 22 and 23, boy, 2024 and 25 are going to encourage you in a very strong way to get yourself dialed in because only you can do it ultimately.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Okay, I want to go back just a little bit, but I don't want to forget that piece either because I have something to say about, my transformation in this past year.
Yeah.
But okay, so you were a holistic nutritionist and you were teaching courses because you came out to the country club where I worked and you did some courses out there and different speaking engagements. So then what led you to, okay, I'm moving to Hawaii, from Kansas to Hawaii, packing up, leaving?
It's an otherworldly story, really, because I had never been to Hawaii.
Mhm.
And I kept dreaming of Hawaii and dreaming of Hawaii, and it wouldn't let me go. It basically kept coming to me in my dreams.
Mhm.
And I was married at the time to a fabulous, fabulous man. He still is fabulous, angel of a
Yes.
guy who would never get angry at anything except when I would bring up Hawaii. And
Wow. Okay, I didn't know that.
yeah, he was diametrically opposed to us living in Hawaii. And it's funny because we would always go down to Costa Rica, and I knew he loved the tropics. I knew he loved this type of environment. And I thought that he wanted to retire in Costa Rica one day because we had always talked about the dream of that. And so every time I bring up Hawaii, though, I was met with a lot of resistance and all of that. So because I learned on the other side how to create my reality, I just went about doing that. And I would just imagine myself. By the way, this is a hot tip. Your imagination creates your reality. So I would just imagine myself in Hawaii, in my house, feeling so relaxed and going outside and doing all that. And one day, I felt a softening, and he said, I've been looking at houses in Hawaii.
Wow.
And it's actually something I think we could do financially. Because he had retired from his corporate job and I was now the breadwinner, right? So I said, tell me more. He said, well, here, I found some houses. And I said, oh, okay, wow. Now I had been working the mental aspects of that, the imagination aspects for about 4 months.
Uh-huh.
And I had spoken to a mentor of mine. His name's Steve, and he's in his 70s. And he said, if you're going to move to Hawaii, it starts out with a trip. You really just shouldn't move there sight unseen. And I said, oh, that's a really good idea. So I knew this woman that I had met like for 30 seconds at a conference. And I thought, well, let me reach out to her and see if she's willing to hop on a phone call. So I
Yeah.
just happened to call this woman. Her name was Whitney. I said, hey, would you want to hop on a chat and talk about what it's like to live in Hawaii? I had no idea what island she lived on.
Yeah.
And she said, yeah, absolutely. So we hopped on a call and she said, well, I just so happen to be leaving in about a month or so for 2 weeks. Would you guys like to come over and use our house and our car? And you could see what it's like to live in Hawaii. And she happened to live on the Big Island. I wanted to live in Maui.
Hmm.
Unbeknownst to me, my ex was looking for houses on the Big Island. So
Okay.
I said, sure, let's
Oh
do
my
it.
gosh, how generous. That's awesome.
Yeah, so in the meantime, because we had about a month or so in the meantime, we booked our travel, and then we also put our house on the market and got everything ready
Yeah.
just to see what would happen. And the housing market had been really down, as you know,
Hmm.
and not a lot of sales and underbidding. And we got to Hawaii, and the day we put our house on the market, we had a bidding war. People were
Yeah.
just like,
I
"Oh my
remember
gosh,
that.
I want your place, I want," and I'm like, "Oh my gosh." And at the same time, that same day, we had looked at a house, and I knew that that was going to be our house.
Yeah.
And it was basically like a trade. I could trade my house in Kansas for my Hawaii house.
Wow.
So we
Wow.
did it.
Oh my gosh. I will never forget that day. I mean, you guys packed up as much as you could in your car that you wanted, and then everything else you're like, here, Robin, take this. Here, Robin, take that. So it's so fun to me. What you don't know, there are little things around my house. You're with me all the time.
Mhm.
This doesn't look so great, but that's your Christmas
Christmas
cactus.
cactus. I recognize a Christmas cactus.
Yes, if you remember, you didn't want me to have that. You wanted the other neighbor to have it, and I took it. Oh my gosh. Yeah, so you're all around. So I love that. And so once you got to Hawaii, then you shifted a little bit. So you were still doing some nutrition coaching, right? But
I
then
was,
you started with some of your healing and energy work.
yeah. Well, it was funny because I was doing nutrition coaching, and in the meantime, all my nutrition coaching buddies were like, how are you doing so well? Like, why are you having this successful business and we're not? So
Hmm.
on the side, I was doing business coaching, and I had developed this whole program about how to get clients with speaking. In fact, that's the name of the program, Get Clients with Speaking, because I was a speaker at my corporate job.
Right.
And so for me, it just came naturally. So I did that, and I was doing really well in that business. But what happened for me in Hawaii was really something magical. So getting myself better, I used all these healing tools and all these energy work tools,
Hmm.
but I was doing it on the down low. I wasn't telling anybody. Also, my ex-husband was very diametrically opposed to this woo-woo stuff.
Hmm.
Meanwhile, after I died, all my psychic senses turned back on because I had them when I was a kid, but they all
Oh,
came back
wow.
on. And so I was in this sort of a place of, I don't want people to think I'm crazy,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
My husband for surely thought had gone cuckoo bird because I also died for long enough that I could have had what I call the brain damage, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
The brain damage. Might have had the brain damage. So at first I was worried, and then I had had enough psychic experiences that were validated that I thought I can no longer ignore
Yeah.
what's happening.
Right.
And then what happened is the tools that I would use on myself, my clients that weren't making any progress forward, I started to use on them.
Hmm.
And they were like, "Oh my God, this is what works. It's not what you tell me to do nutritionally or business wise. It's doing the inner work that
Yeah.
actually shifts everything."
Hmm.
And so I learned that the secret key to life is doing the inner work, working the energy, and realizing that we're the projection machines of our reality,
Hmm.
you know, And as much as we try to fix on the outside, the more we just go within and work that energy within, then everything can really change. So in Hawaii, I always tell people it's like living on the world's largest crystal.
Oh,
And
sounds lovely.
right, because it's all this lava and quartz and peridot and all of these minerals. And so everything for you gets amplified there, which is why I do retreats there, because it's just all your everything is amplified.
Yeah.
All your inner turmoil is amplified. All your inner dreams and hopes are amplified. All everything just gets super amplified.
Hmm.
And if you work with that energy, it can be very positive. And if you don't work with that energy, it can be not so great. So Hawaii, I think, brought me there for me to work with the energy of really seeing what was inside of me still and what wanted to blossom. And it just became a have to. It became, I have to move into this new business. And what happened for me is I was kind of clicking along in my old business in 2017. I was doing really well. I was spending a mountain of money on Facebook ads, and that was working really well. I was having huge six-figure months,
Hmm.
you know, and it was amazing until it wasn't.
Yeah.
Until 2018, there was sort of a meltdown with the algorithm. And all of the sudden, those $50,000 months that I was spending about $50,000 a month on Facebook ads.
Oh my goodness.
Yes, but I was making a ton of money back.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right. No big deal. 50
Yeah.
grand, like $10,
Yeah.
right? Um, that all stopped working.
Mhm.
And for me, when something stops working, I have to take a look at it and ask,
Sure.
why? What am I being shown here?
Right. Right.
And internally, I just knew I needed to move into this spiritual business. And I knew that there was a big wave coming.
Hmm.
And I already knew the tail end of 2018, I knew that 2020 was going to be a very hard year for people. And that was our pandemic year. In fact, I actually predicted the pandemic in 2019. And so I knew it was going to be a hard year. So I actually took a sizable loan from myself, and I took most of 2019 off, and I just retooled my business. I retooled everything. I completely threw out the baby with the bathwater.
Yeah.
I threw out everything. I started again. I knew that I was going to need to full-fledged go into this spiritual business and helping everyday people tap into that piece of themselves
Hmm.
that is totally connected with divine energy, universal energy, God energy, whatever name you want to call it, it's all the same
Right.
stuff.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I knew I was going to have to help people with practical tools to change their life. And I felt perfectly aligned with doing that because, before I wasn't a spiritual person. I mean, I believed in certain things, but I was soft on the concept in
Yeah.
general, you know.
Sure.
Um, and so I felt like I could teach this stuff. And so that's what I did. I just changed my whole life. I changed my whole business, and I just fully trusted and leaned into that trust. And one of the things I learned along the way is that as a human being, we like to resist change. We don't we don't want change at all. But as a divine creator, as like universal consciousness, we're supposed to have a lot of change.
Hmm.
And so for me, it was about training my nervous system and just being okay with change and learning that when you are, magical things happen and your life really expands. So that was kind of the journey. It's been an epic. I mean, goodness gracious, it's been an epic journey.
Oh my gosh. And you still do some coaching one-on-one, right? But mostly in groups and courses and webinars and oh
Yeah.
my gosh. Yeah, because I see you growing on Instagram. Just it's crazy what you have created. It's amazing.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it
And
makes
it's
sense, like, when you were saying, like, going from 2020 to then what's coming up in 2024 and 2025, I told you I wanted to get back to that because this past summer, I just had this transformation, and it was, like, learning how to come into alignment, and once you find that, oh my gosh, you never want to get out of it. It's like, okay, this feels right. Everything feels where I'm supposed to be and doing exactly what I'm supposed to be doing.
Yes.
It's
Yes.
great. Yeah.
Yes. And, to speak to into that even more, as human beings, we've gotten so out of alignment. If you think about what our lives are like today, I literally was driving the other day and I saw three people in a car and they were all looking at their phone while driving. Everybody,
Oh my gosh.
including the driver, everybody's
Wow.
looking at their phone. I almost took a picture.
Yeah.
Where many of us have become so disconnected from what it is to be a divine being, a spiritual being inhabiting a vehicle, right? We're consciousness living in a physical body.
Hmm.
We've forgotten that though. And so many people are being invited into the big wake up. And the big wake up happens in many different ways. And for me, it happened in rock bottom. And unfortunately, that's what a lot of people need. But I am also here to say you don't have to die on the potty in order to have the big wake up. You can do it consciously. You can do it. Sounds like you had a really
Yeah.
conscious.
Yeah. Yeah. And there wasn't like one magic moment, but I just remember when I found my purpose. I've loved what I've been doing. I love the fitness industry. I can't even imagine not, teaching and doing some personal training. But coming into this podcast and being able to connect to people like you, when you were saying that people were looking at their phones, and it's so true. And what this has done for me is it's given me a connection. Like nothing else matters right now. I don't know what's going on outside. I'm right here with you. I'm in this conversation. And I'm so happy that we get to be here and connect like this. And I've really learned how to slow down and listen. I say it all the time, almost in every episode, but it's just such a gift.
Yeah, the gift of presence,
Yes.
right?
Yeah.
When you're being fully present and attuned to the moment, because
Hmm.
I believe that our best life happens in the present moment. It doesn't happen when we're thinking about the future or reminiscing about the past. We create just so much magic in that present moment. So I love that you're feeling that
Yeah.
and you got tapped into that purpose. That's huge. And I think
Yeah.
that's what people are being called back into is really finding their purpose, really finding, what lights them up and doing things really differently. We've sort of become automatons to the machine of I wake up in the morning, I go do my job, I make the money to get the things,
Hmm.
so I can then go home at night and drink myself away or drug myself away or forget about it all or tune out by watching a lot of TV. I'm here to say that that's not what life is about. There's
Yeah.
so much
Yes.
magic when you are tapped in.
True. True. And I've heard it said before that purpose is the opposite of depression.
Yes.
And I think once you find that purpose, and I say that, but it doesn't have to be some grand scheme. Like maybe your purpose is just in that day helping one person or finding one connection. So we don't have to know our 5-year plan. It's always great to know, but and it'll change. Like don't get too attached to something because, celebrate impermanence because that's the way life goes.
Totally, totally. And I loved what you said about that purpose. It's in the moment. Like if you can be on purpose when you show up in the grocery store and you're sending love to people when people are busy and agitated, you get to be, I always think of us as cell towers. I came from the cell phone industry.
Yes.
But we operate, our heart and energetic fields operate as cell towers, and you actually have a very broad broadcasting range. I believe our purpose is to just show up and be a loving, energetic being. And you can do that purpose while you're driving. You can do that purpose in the grocery store. You can do that purpose when your spouse is home and having a bad day, right? You can be on purpose. Because here's the other thing. When I was over on the other side in my near death experience, the only thing we take with us is our soul lessons and our ability to hold an energy frequency. We don't get
Mhm.
to take the things, we don't get to take our bodies, we don't get to take our clothes, we don't get to take the money. Nothing from this plane goes with us other
Mhm.
than our essence, our energies. And so practicing that here, I think really is the work.
Yeah. Oh, that's great. You had said that your ex-husband didn't believe in like all of the woo. So take me through that then. Like I know, and I happen to know that you then divorced, but I didn't know all the circumstances, but I can imagine that it had to do with you just didn't see things the same anymore.
Yeah, and then, no fault against him. I mean, here he was, he liked, he's still, because I don't drink anymore, right? For me,
Hmm.
that blocks my consciousness.
Hmm.
So he wanted to still drink and I didn't. And he wanted to still watch TV and kind of tune out and I didn't. So I wanted to be outside. I wanted to be in
Yeah.
nature and checking in. And he was not ready for that. And it's no shame in that game,
Yeah.
right? We were just in different places. But I was the one who kind of changed because I
Hmm.
used to like to do all that. So
Yeah.
he's thinking, well, who are you being? Who are you becoming? Meanwhile, I'm having all these psychic experiences and predicting things that are coming. And I wish I could give you more examples because they're too personal for me to share. But one of them, we were driving out our driveway, and in Kansas we had that long driveway.
Yeah.
We're about halfway out, and I said, be careful because there's a handicapped driver coming up and they're not going to see you and they're going to come right as you're backing out and they're going fast enough that you're going to hit. And he's like,
Wow.
whatever. And he, is still backing out. But just because he's a smart man, he also slowed down.
Yeah.
And he slows down. And just as he's coming to the back, this handicapped driver comes whizzing by, just enough for him to see the handicap license plates on the back. And he's like,
Oh my gosh, that's
how could
wild.
you have known that? And I said, or he said, how could you have seen that? And I said, I didn't see it. I saw it up here. Like, he's like, you couldn't have seen it from where your
Wow.
vantage point. And I said, I didn't see it there. I saw it here. And so
Wow.
those were the types of things that he kind of, at some point he started to get, but because he didn't believe it, it was a rough part for us,
Hmm.
and I wanted to go and speak and teach on these things. And he's like, I don't necessarily think that's a wise plan. So you can tell why that didn't work out. I think we could have
Right.
worked it out. But it was just time for us to be done. And that's the thing, we make contracts with people, right? We make agreements with people, and then sometimes we're done with that. And unfortunately, we have a lot of judgment and a lot of ideology about like being married to the same person forever, when
Hmm.
maybe that learning, because remember, we're here for is the soul learnings. So
Hmm.
maybe that learning with that person is complete, and you're supposed to both go now learn with other people.
Yeah.
And so that's also something that I knew at the time, was like, okay, well, I think we are sort of complete with this. We could choose to keep learning together, but we both made the decision to stop to learn with each other and to go our separate ways. And we did it with a lot of love. All my friends called it the Brady Bunch divorce because we had so much love when we were together. We agreed, let's do this with all the love that we had.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And he's a great guy. He's a great guy
He's an
too.
amazing guy.
Yeah.
And we're still friends to this day. So,
Good.
I know that either one of us would do anything for each other
Yeah.
because, there's always going to be that love of the person there.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
So someone that's listening to this and they're thinking, okay, I don't even know where to start. Like what first step would you recommend that people take to come into this alignment and open up all of this possibility?
That's a really great question. For me, the first step started with tuning in just to
Hmm.
myself and being quiet. And instead of checking out, for me, checking out was watching TV, drinking, shopping, overworking, overspending. I'm an overachiever, I'm an overdoer.
Hmm. That you are.
Being too busy, 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 go, 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 go. And then we don't have the chance to settle down and feel what's on the inside.
Yeah. Yeah.
So for me, it started with I have to simmer down and just feel what's on the inside and
Hmm.
start to work with that. And meditation can be a great spot for that. And a lot of people will tell me, well, I can't meditate because my thoughts come in. And I would say that's perfect because that's what meditation is just noticing your thoughts
Right.
and seeing the program that we're on,
Hmm.
seeing when you're quiet, like the mind wants to come in and say, well, you didn't do this, or oh, you need to do that, or oh, and listening to what the mind is telling you. So
Hmm.
for me, that's the first piece. And the second piece is really allowing yourself to think about, what is it that you want? What is the life that you could possibly dream if you allowed yourself to dream it?
Hmm.
Because I really believe that we are consciousness expanding itself, and that you don't necessarily have to do the Western world's prescription
Hmm.
of the life, right? Like
Yeah.
we've been prescribed, well, you have to make this much money to be successful. You have to have these many things. Your kids have to go to this school. You have to dress this way. And you can break out of that if you want to
Hmm.
and live a really different life, but it starts from within and really tuning in. What would you want if you allowed yourself to dream the best version of yourself?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
And to your first point, I mean, I say a lot of times, and a lot of yoga instructors say this too, listening to your body. And a lot of people, you hear that and you're like, okay, well, if my shoulder hurts, don't do that. But if you really listen to your body, it's going to give you all kinds of signals and tools. It's amazing. Just you have to pay attention.
Yes. And I would also, one of the things that I remember for me is when we tell somebody to listen to their body and they are clogged with a bunch of stuff, garbage, food, chemicals, drugs, alcohol, it's kind of like telling somebody in a room full of 50 TVs, listen to the TV, see what it's telling you. They
Yeah.
actually can't. So there's a place where we actually have to work to clean ourselves up a little bit so that we can hear what our body's actually speaking. And it's one of the reasons why, yoga, meditation's so good. But also for me, I personally hired a nutritionist. And I remember meeting with this woman, and I thought, whatever she tells me to do, I'm going to do, because she was so sparkly and so glowy. And she's about 15 years older than me, but she looked so much more youthful than I did. And her name was Shelly. And I just remember thinking, I don't care what Shelly tells me to do, I'm going to do it
Yeah.
because I want to be that. And so I needed to clean myself up enough that I could hear my body. Because most people, they don't realize that their chronic pain is an issue because they're in it every day. They
Yeah.
don't realize they've got brain fog because they've had brain fog for as long as they can remember. They don't know that that's not normal. They haven't had the feeling of what it feels like to be an in tune human being. So I love what you're saying, listen to the body. And so many people actually can't, because they're so clogged. They've got so much I call it static interference coming to them, that
Hmm.
just going on like a nice little dietary cleanup will be huge for people. And then they can be like, oh my gosh, when I eat this food, I feel bad. When
Yeah.
I do this thing, I don't feel so well. Or when I do this thing, I feel really great. But they don't have that feedback loop now because they're so saturated with the static.
Hmm. Yeah, no, I agree. I agree. And when you were saying, I mean, I also feel like your second point that you made, um, like we have these dreams, and I feel like often what happens is life doesn't turn out exactly like what we thought it would be in our head. And so then we become content. That happened to me. So my point wasn't on the toilet, but it was, I mean, I feel like I just kind of died to everything and almost took on a like a victim mentality and just realized, okay, well, this is what it is. This is what my life's going to be. And then I'm like, oh, heck no, I'm going for more. This I'm not out with that. Let's bring back my dreams and aspirations and now make it happen.
Totally. And that, by the way, that exact process you talked about is what happened to me as well. It's what happens to people. And some people don't pop out of that. You're, more on the enlightened scale, but some people never pop out of that. They think, oh, this is what happened to me. And now I'm just in this. When it's a choice that we have to make to say, I want something different. and I'm going to do what's required of me
Yeah.
to get to.
Yes. Yeah, I mean, that is the next step because, I just was working with a group of ladies and we were developing our morning rituals and evening rituals. And so we talked about affirmations and visualizing, and which is fantastic. I believe in that. I believe in manifesting, but you also have the actions to go with it because you can't just say, I want blah, blah, blah. You have to have a plan to carry that out. So,
Absolutely. Yeah, it's about both. And that's where I think in the Western culture, we've really cut ourselves off. We only like to use one part of ourselves or deal with one part at a time. Like when you go to the doctor and you break your arm, they just deal with your arm, they don't deal with the whole body.
mhm.
And the same thing is here. We've got to deal with the left brain and the right brain. Right brain, visualizing affirmations, working at the identity level to change who we are. Left brain, let me get those actions in. Let me actually do something different today. That's not my old self
Mhm.
operating, right?
Yeah, I like
Changing the
that.
new
Yeah.
self. Yeah, we've got to work with both halves of our brains, both halves of ourselves. So important.
Yeah. Oh, this is such good stuff. Do you have any courses coming up? Like what is in your pipeline?
Yeah, so well now I've really am so excited about this academy that I've developed. So it's a certification course to teach energy healing skills and how
Okay.
to work energy and change your vibration, but also help people do that for their clients. So that's actually coming up in April. We do it twice a year. It's a certification course that people actually, they get a big certificate, they can hang it on their wall, they can say they're a divine light energy healer. But I find that a lot of the people that go through it, of course, they use it with their clients, but mostly first they use it with themselves and then their lives change. So that's coming up. Of course, I'm here in Tucson for the Gem Show. So I will be shopping for crystals here.
Nice.
So excited about, but that's really it. For now, I'm
hmm
always working on something. I have a new product coming out, but it's an exclusive product that it's not going to be launched publicly. It's just for a certain outlet. So that's happening as well. But lots of goodies, lots of
Interesting.
yummies happening in the back end. I think mostly though, I'm really trying to get myself solid for 2024 and 2025 and kind of recalibrate myself and tune up my physical body to optimal health because I think
hmm
that's really going to serve us all in 2024 and 2025 is to be even more dialed in with our health and nutrition and just have that body really clicking on all cylinders.
Yeah. Oh, that's great. So how can the listeners find you?
Well, you can go to we have a little toolkit for everybody. It's called Raise Your Vibration Toolkit. And so the Raise Your Vibration Toolkit is just little practices that I did for myself in the beginning to raise my vibration and just feel different. They're energy tools that you can use to have a different day and to have a different feeling and to create your reality in a different way. So yeah, they could go check that out. Raise Your Vibration Toolkit.
Okay. And where do we find that? Like, are you on Instagram? Is it your website?
You can find it at raiseyourvibrationtoolkit.com.
Okay. Okay. All right. I'll make sure I put that in the show notes. Yes. Wonderful. Well, Alyssa, thank you again for taking time out of your busy schedule. It's seriously, your age is going backwards. You look way younger now than you did when you left going out of the driveway that day. It's crazy.
Yes. I'm
So,
so grateful. But it's been work, it's been work. It's doing the work. It's eating. And I always say this, I want to leave the people with this. Your body will change. You'll get a whole new body in 7 years. Every 7 years you get a new body.
hmm,
And your body will change based on what you give it in your thoughts and your feelings and what you put in your body.
yeah,
And so you get to make the choice. Do you want your body to be healthier, happier, more youthful? Every single day you get the choice of where your body's going. And I think that's the most important thing for people to know is that you get to choose what you feed it mentally, physically, emotionally.
it's true. Oh, thank you. It was so good. I appreciate you being here.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. Oh my gosh, that was amazing. Thank you, Alysa. Thank you so much for sharing all of that. I know I truly enjoyed the episode, and I hope that you did as well. And I hope that you'll share it with a friend, because there's so many good nuggets in here. It's interesting to me because the day that we recorded this was a wonderful day. I got to spend time with Alysa, which was amazing, and I was in the moment and resonating with everything that she was saying. But the day that I went to edit it was totally different. It was a totally different story. I was in a major funk. I needed to hear everything that she was saying again as a reminder. Oh yeah, I do get to choose. I get to be present. I do love my life, and I'm creating the life of my dreams. We all fall off. We're human, and we're all a work in progress. Here are a few takeaways from our conversation. 1. If you're in a soul-sucking job, drinking every night to relieve the stress, or other unhealthy habits, and you're beginning to feel it in your body, make a change now. Small steps towards a healthier environment can be a lifesaver. 2. Western medicine has a place, but so many ailments can be treated holistically, and it's worth a try to explore them before putting something in your body with side effects pages long. 3. When you change what's on the inside, your physicality changes. You might drop weight, your skin might improve, your energy increases. Put in the work and watch the magic happen. 4. Your imagination creates your reality. 5. Doing the inner work will transform you in unimaginable ways. It shifts everything. We are the projection machines of our reality. 6. As humans, we like to resist change, but we're supposed to have a lot of change. Train your nervous system to be okay with that. 7. Many of us have become so disconnected from what it is to be a divine being. We are consciousness living in a physical body. You don't have to have a life-threatening wake-up call to find alignment. You can get there consciously. Go to Alysa's raiseyourvibrationtoolkit.com to find just a few tips to get started. 8. Your best life happens in the present moment. 9. Tune into yourself. Instead of checking out by maybe watching TV or drinking, overspending and such, settle down and feel what's on the inside. Meditation is a great tool for that. 10. What is the life you want if you were allowed yourself to dream it? We are consciousness expanding itself, and we don't necessarily have to take the Western world prescription of life. We have that choice. Thanks so much for listening. Again, please share this with a friend. I know that they will appreciate it as well. Thank you for listening. If you're enjoying this podcast, be sure to follow Spandex and Wine so you don't miss an episode. To do this, just go to the podcast and click subscribe or follow wherever you are listening. Look for the plus sign or follow button. This is one of the best things that you can do for the podcast. If you'd also be willing to give a 5-star review, that would be amazing and much appreciated. Lastly, please share an episode with a friend or 5 to keep the love going, and join the Spandex and Wine community in our private Facebook group by searching Spandex and Wine. Feel free to reach out to me at any time by emailing info@spandexandwine.com or text me at 913-392-2877. I appreciate you. Thank you.